Well, hey, friends. I'm gonna just go ahead and warn you right out of the gate that this episode is gonna be filled with incredulous swearing because I fucked that shit up. I, f- I, I am going. This is part two of my Burning Man experience, and I fucked that shit up really, really badly in so many ways that are like ridiculous. And I've been thinking about it because I should have seen it coming. I mean, I had 5 brilliant years of like nonstop magic and fun. And yet I knew the power of this place. Like, and everyone says universally that you get the burn that you need, not the one you want, which has made my last 5 all the more delightful. But apparently this year she thought I should get a a really interesting perspective of things that are not pleasant, peeks behind curtains and noticing things that I can't unsee now. And then to top it off, like to come back to the default world and to watch the conversations that are happening around this burn and to feel so out of sync with like everyone else. Uh because there's the news media sort of elevated and heightened version of disaster. And then there is the other side, which is like, if you didn't like this burn, you're not a real burner. Um, and it was amazing and fabulous, and I had the time of my life. And I'm sitting here going like, I guess it was just me. I guess it was just me, and it really could be just me 'cause, every burn is very, very different, but, and like I said, I totally fucked it up. Like, I was the worst leader ever the first day we were on Playa. I had to apologize to my camp for that, 'cause I lost the plot and, myself for a day. That was not cute. And then I also, I wanted to have a Playa romance this year. I just wanna have romance, like, let's be honest. And I actually, like, day 1, wander across the street, amazing live music playing, end up casually just, like, talking to a couple people. Some of them happen to be cute guys, but at this point, I'm just assuming everyone's with someone. Don't think much about it. Later, get a sweet note at my camp from one of the people I was talking to, and he says that he loves my energy and he gave me a little gift of these like adorable dried flowers, and told me to come find him at his camp called Camp Karma Love. Do I do it? No. No, I sure don't. Didn't follow up on that one. So, yeah, like I said, I did it was like a lot of stupid shit. So, okay, first things first, I went into this burn thinking that I was going to be able to practice playful leadership. I had been I have a camp full of incredibly hard workers. Like seriously, I think our camp is the hardest working camp on Playa. Like, and I don't even yeah, like, we have a work ethic, and we have infrastructure, and we have so much that we do, like 3 meals a day, and the people who choose to camp with us, there's a lot of really hard workers in our camp who are driven by hard work, and so but we're also healers, right? And we tend to do this thing where we overextend and then we have to like scrape ourselves back up and recharge our batteries and then do it all over again. And like that's stale. Like that's a boring old paradigm that we should kind of not do anymore. And so I was thinking this is a beautiful laboratory where I can try to figure out how to get like that how to ride that wave, how to surf that wave of work play balance because the people in my camp are not going to feel satisfied if they don't actually feel like they've contributed the significant amount to this experience. And also, like, you know, getting burnt out is not it. So, how do we do that? And that was my goal, and I failed. Like, I failed at that. I thought I had paced us out. I thought we as a camp had like dialed some things back, and then we had a desert hurricane. What what the fuck is that? Like, what is that? We had a desert hurricane, and it pushed our schedule by 2.5 days, which is a ridiculous amount of time. It compresses everything. It makes it so that we don't get to have a day off between building the city and starting the burn. And that day off should be non-negotiable. But somehow we could not dial our own infrastructure back in order to create that space. And the nature and the playa decided to once again shorten the length of our build. And I wanted to be able to experiment and play more in the space of what playful leadership looks like. And I wasn't able to do that. And like I said, I had to apologize to my camp because I got like triggered and weird. And yeah, it was not cute, not fun, not playful, none of those things. So, failure. Lots of lessons learned from failure. More lessons learned often from failure. So it's not that I got the burn I needed, not necessarily the one that I wanted. Number one. Then then I found myself having to come to grips with the fact that my name is Newbie because I love new things. And I was like, oh my God, this city is a choose your own adventure. And you can do it new every year. And like, how do people become jaded? Because this is the most magical city on the planet. And then this year, I shit you not, I was the jaded burner. My brain was saying like the most jacked things. I'm heading out to Deep Playa to look at art, which is one of my favorite things. And I'm looking out at all of this art and nothing is calling me, which is like, it doesn't make any sense. And then this is an example of like where I totally fucked it up, did it wrong, whatever. This is where my brain was at. But I drive up to, and I'm sure you've seen it. It's a giant like butterfly, dragonfly with lights under the wings, and it's flapping and music's playing and you can hang out underneath it. And I shit you not, when I saw it, I was like, oh, another blinky light thing that you can lay under. What? Like what? And and it was the same thing in the city. I'm not going to say too many details about this camp in particular, but right at the beginning of the week, I saw this camp on Esplanade that was new and it had crazy infrastructure that I was like, oh my God, that is so much money. Whoa, look at how much you can just tell how much is invested in this thing. And so, of course, I'm like, you've got to go check this out. And so we go to it and we walk inside, and it is the most soulless, dead, confusing, why kind of space. I think there was like 6 of us, and all of us kind of walked through and then faced each other and we're like, yeah, we're good here. Let's go. That sent me on this like path of thinking about how much money and resources went into that. And it doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right. It doesn't like it's like, what are we doing? That was my vibe. I was like, what are we doing? And so then from that point on, I feel like I couldn't lose that filter. And so I ended up going around the city with that, like, what are we doing? What are we actually doing filter? And, uh, well, I don't recommend that one. I do I don't recommend that one. Uh, if I could give you any advice, it would be don't wander around the city that you love with the "what are we actually doing" filter on, because it's not fun. There are pockets of amazing, right? Like, there's such a difference between these little, like, mom and pop camps that are growing organically from people who got so inspired by the city that they want to contribute. And those spots are just little oases of delicious goodness. And I ran into some of those for sure, but they were outweighed by what felt like overproduced, s soulless, branded things. And, oh god, it was so well, I didn't recover. I did not recover from that. I did not recover from that. And that's not to say that I didn't have magical moments and amazing fun. I did. And I've been really conflicted about it because, I mean, if you know me, I've loved this thing so much that I suffered weeks of longing after I left it last year. I owe everything to Burning Man. And I also can't unsee what I saw. And I can't know the playa and not know how much damage was done because of the rain and because of the moop. But that being said, it's a portal. It's a magical portal. And, I'm beginning to think of it like a psychedelic journey where it's not just about the journey. It's not about just going. It's how do you integrate it? How do you integrate it back into the world that you actually live in? And so I'm coming to this idea, and I'm this would be really great if then this would be really great if this is what's happened. But my life this whole past year, and I think I've even said it on a couple podcasts, has felt like I'm living in a burn. It's made me think about the idea of enough. And, you know, our culture does not teach us how to understand what our enough is. And without understanding what your enough is, you're never going to get there. You're never going to be like, right. And maybe that's the point. Maybe that's the point that capitalism doesn't want you to understand what enough is, because then you lose your drive or your productivity or your worker beeness. I don't know. But what I do know is that if we had billionaires who understood what their enough is, we wouldn't have billionaires, right? Like, you you can't possibly think about what enough might be for you and think that more than $1 billion is $1 billion. Like, you can't spend that much money. It's not just for it's for me. I need to understand what my enough is. Was it greedy for me to go back to Burning Man again? You know what? Maybe. Maybe it was. What possibly more could I have wanted to get? Apply a romance. And I got that this year, which I'll be sharing about that later. But I was thinking about the amount of time and treasure that is spent on this one event. It is astronomical on an individual level, and then on on a larger scale. You know, the burn was created in a time where we didn't understand and we didn't embody what it is that we now know. And it's really hard to look at the world and what is happening in the world and not feel like the burn is turning into a Hotel California at this point. And the things about it that are important that we need. It's freed so many people and we can't lose that. And it's really clear that after these last 2 years, like, I don't know, that's the thing. There's never been an easy burn. So the whole freaking uh the whole thing that is out right now that is like, if you didn't like this burn, if you didn't love this burn, then you're not a true burner. And this is great because it's going to weed out, and the true burners are the ones who are going to be going next year or what? What? What are you talking about? It's weird. It's a weird mentality. I guess we could just keep on keeping on. But, we're responsible for creating the world that we want to live in. And it means creating that world, not just creating a week, but creating a world. And I can't help but think about if there was no big burn, how much of that energy and how much of that passion for this thing would spread out around the world, right? Like, if we could take that energy that we put towards this one event and then we turn it towards our communities and our towns and the places that we actually live in, like, imagine what could be done in a year's time. And, the chances of educating people about Leave No Trace and about caring for the planet exponentially increase when they're learning about it in the place that they actually live. There's always just a percentage of the population that's not going to get it. And you're not going to shame them into getting it. Shame doesn't work. I mean, it kind of works, but not in the way that we want it to. Think about anything that you learned about from shame. You want that lesson? You want to be that person who's shaming people into, no, like, that's not it. That's not it. And so, and as I say that, I'm thinking, God, have I done that? Have I done that in this podcast? I fucking hope not. If I did, shame on me. Shame on me if I did that. The shame program is real, man. We all got it pretty hardcore. And part of our work is recognizing when it's present and then not doing it. So, in this, like, super fun episode that we're enjoying, can I tell you this one time I went to Burning Man and I got to experience what it feels like to be a climate refugee? Yeah, that was so cute. My fucking God. Yeah, so that's the other thing. I got to cosplay. I got to cosplay being a climate refugee. And what that means and what that looked like for me is being in a situation where my shelter, my home was threatened, having to, under an emergency evacuation, grabbing the things that are the most important to me, leaving behind the things that aren't, and hoping that they don't get destroyed, and just trying to think through what it is that I need right now and grabbing it and moving into a temporary location where I'm sharing space with other people. And my final scene, leaving the playa, which I didn't share in the last podcast, but I'm sharing now because it's a big part of this experience for me, is that while we were driving out, right, we're like sitting on laps in a stacked truck with the back completely packed, a la the Grinch meets Beverly Hillbillies, ratchet straps and whatever, keeping all of our stuff in the back of this truck. And we're slowly driving out, and it's starting to rain, and we keep having obstacles come across us so that we have to stop. And each time we stop, there's like this panic and fear that's growing because I'm realizing all of my stuff is packed up and gone. So there's no going back. That bridge was burnt when we packed the truck up. And now we're repeatedly getting stopped while it's raining. And each time we stop, it's like there's this fear that we're not going to be able to keep going. And so now we've made it out of the city, and we're driving sort of in these like makeshift lanes to get out to the main paved road, right? That's safety. And as we're driving out, we're passing by lines of people who have their belongings on their backs, and they're trudging through 5 miles of this mud that is so hard to walk through. And your heart, is like feeling so bad for the people who are so desperate to leave this place that they are doing this really strenuous, awful hike. That's the other thing. When you like are talking about the people who left early, you're talking about people who chose to leave, whether because they needed to get home for other things, or they were just so done that they had to leave. Either way, can you just have a little sympathy for the people who left? Leaving this event was not easy unless you stayed until the very end. And then from all accounts, it sounded like it was a dream. So lovely, amazing. I love that journey for you. I love that journey for you. These people who walked out of the city had a terrible fucking time. And so we're driving next to them. It's raining on them. They're walking so slowly. They're exhausted. And one of them like kind of waves to us. And so the driver rolls down the window, and he's like, "Hey man, like any chance I can just hop on the back of your truck?" And of course, the driver's like, yeah, of course. Yeah, be careful. It's your choice. Like, this is a dangerous thing to do, but if you want to try it out, go for it. And so we like slow down, and he walks around the back of the truck. I can't see what's happening behind us, but I can see out the sides. And all of a sudden, people see this guy getting on the back of our truck, and we start getting swarmed. We start getting swarmed by people who are desperate to jump on our truck. And all of a sudden you're like, oh no, this is not good. And so the driver speeds up and pulls away before people can actually get on the back of this truck. And I got to tell you, the feeling that I had, I felt so bad that we couldn't take people with us. Oh my God, imagine if this were a true climate disaster and people's lives are at stake. Or imagine that it's war and you're having to live with the fact that you cannot help you're getting away and you cannot help these people. Yeah, that was my actual last minutes on Playa. And we made it. We made it out to the road, and we drove like that for 2 hours. We didn't really talk about it, but I've thought about it quite a bit. And I have a space in my heart now for climate refugees, because I understand that anyone who is fleeing their home because of the weather because the weather has destroyed their home. This is a terrible, awful, horrible way to be. And I knew that I had a safe home to go to. But I can't even imagine how I would have felt if I didn't know that I had a shelter to go to. So yeah, I don't know where this part of this newfound like understanding is going to lead me, but I got that one. I got that lesson. So that was cute, I guess. So it's really interesting. Every other time that I've come back from the burn, I've had this longing and this sort of not wanting to be home, wishing I was still there, missing all of the people and the connections and the aliveness that I felt. And this year I'm like, huh, I'm so grateful to be home. I am realizing how much of the burn I have integrated into my life and that how much it's here for me if I'm paying attention. And like I'm going to give you a couple examples of how my life has been more burny since I've been home in really lovely ways than it was at the burn. So I I ended up going to a dance party this weekend and danced my ass off. It wasn't as epic as the dance parties that I've been to at the burn because of the weather, because of the madness of the setting. But the feeling that I had inside was amazing. Like joyful, fun, connected, amazing. And then I was sharing some of my experiences at the burn with a friend and we parted ways and I got home and he texted me a picture of a poem. And he said that he was walking home and he ran across a poet sitting on a street typing poetry on a typewriter. And so he asked her to write a poem. He asked her to write a poem for me. And he told her a little bit about what it is that I had been talking about with him. And she wrote a poem. And I am going to read it to you because it is that ridiculous. It's okay that it's not okay. It's alarming how far the storm went to disrupt my joy, to mar a circumstance I expected to fill my cup. And now I'm in the complexity of surviving what I love, and it's okay that it's not okay. I won't layer guilt and shame on a tragedy or a bad day. I can hurt for a while. I can stay in my cocoon until I'm ready to spread my wings again, and everything else can wait. So that happened, which was like ridiculous. And then, and then I it's rare that I have cravings for food, but I had a craving for this breakfast burrito, this like Hatch green chili breakfast burrito that we have at this one place here in Denver. And I had tried twice before the burn to go get one, and it had failed once because they were closed and once because it was past 11. And so I'm like, I have got to get me one of those burritos. And it was right under the line, right? It's like minutes before 11. And I go in and there's one woman in front of me. And I realize that I hear a transaction happening. And I'm like, did she just buy the last of the breakfast burritos? And the woman behind the counter is like, yep. And I'm like, cool. Got it. And I go to leave. And the woman turns around and says, can I give you a breakfast burrito? She's like, let me give you one. And I was like, no, like it's okay. And she's like, I really would like to. And I'm like, can I pay you for it? And she's like, absolutely not. and she gives me a breakfast burrito. And then as I'm walking out the door, another woman comes up to me and says, "Hey, I've got an extra breakfast burrito. Do you want mine?" And I was like, "Thank you so much. No, I'm good. I've had enough." Oh, yeah. And then there was that I forgot one of the most amazing things, like, right out of the gate. Okay, so I come back from the burn and I hibernate for, like, a day and a half, and then I have this appointment with this person who believes in what it is that I have to say so much that he's volunteered his time to help me create a keynote address and facilitation. And so I go to his house, and his amazing wife and he have made me a delicious lunch, and now he's going to workshop with me all afternoon. And this was set up before the burn, so that was amazing. But the experiences that I had at the burn actually like tied like directly into what it was that I was talking about anyway. So that was kind of cool, and we'll see where that goes. But I pull up to his house, to their house, and I step out of my car, and I hear, middle of the afternoon, I hear the most beautiful violin playing, violin music, just beautiful live music just playing in the street while I'm standing there. And I stand there and then take in the warmth of the day and the sunshine and the beauty that is Denver, and the live music gift that I'm being given. And I was as feeling that playa magic. I was feeling that strong like surge of gratitude for playa magic, only I was at home. So I have a lot to be grateful for. I'm hopeful that I'm onto something here, and that I'm not actually going to be giving up anything. I'm actually just expanding it into 365, 24/7. And, man, like, that's the actual dream, right? Like, that's actually the dream. That's why we do it. That's why we go. It's why we struggle when we come back, because we're like, why can't the world be like this? Maybe it can. We have to create the world that we want to live in. I know that for a fact. That's like what I'm doing. This is what I'm doing. That is my that is what I am doing right now. What I am doing right now is trying to create the world that I want to live in. It is my number one driver. How do I create the world that I want to live in? I don't like something big is right around the corner. I feel like something big is right around the corner. And I feel like it's big for me, but it also could just be like something big in general. But if you made it to the end of this episode, fucking bravo. If you're still here, you made it to the end. I feel like probably felt like like making it to the end of this burn. You deserve a pat on the back. And hopefully you're feeling lighter and happier for having made it to the end. uh, Wish me luck this weekend. Bye.